I think most people are really afraid of cancer.
Yeah.
If you could kind of sum up the fears of your average middle-aged person, it would be one word: cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
What do you do to lessen your risk?
That's a great question. Well, cancer, primarily is caused by food and environmental toxins. So, food, what kind of food? Sugar. We know clearly that pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, many of the common cancers, pancreatic cancer, are caused by something called insulin resistance, which is basically
pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, which is pre-diabetes or poor metabolic health. And here's the kicker, Tucker. 93.2% of Americans are in poor metabolic health, meaning they have some form of pre-diabetes or insulin resistance. They have high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, they're overweight, or they've had a heart attack or stroke. That means 6.8% of us are not sick at some level. And that poor metabolic health is driving all these conditions, whether it's cancer, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, depression, infertility, so many different things, even acne. Which is
really?
Yes. So this is our food system is the biggest killer on the planet.
I have too many questions for you, okay. But I just want to take out one point that you made and ask you to go a little deeper. Depression.
Yes.
There's a connection between sugar and depression.
Absolutely, absolutely. At Harvard and Stanford now, there are psychiatric departments that study this. Metabolic psychiatry is at Stanford, and they're studying the effect of insulin resistance and prediabetes and poor metabolism that comes from eating sugar and starch, flour, and how that affects our brain. At Harvard, there's a department of nutritional psychiatry that studies similar things as well as the gut microbiome. There's a doctor at Harvard, Christopher Palmer, wrote a book called Brain Energy, talking about how he's cured schizophrenia and other mental disorders by putting people on a very low sugar or starch diet. So absolutely, the data is there. There's no question. There's actually a big trial that was done in Australia, I think, and they used something called, what was the study called? The SMILE trial. SMILE trial, studying depression, right? They come up with these names. So basically using dietary interventions to treat depression, and they found that it worked better than drugs. And it is basically getting rid of the junk food and eating real food. And they found that I wanted to call it the GLAD diet as opposed to American diet, which is called the SAD diet, the standard American diet.
Yeah, well, it certainly is a SAD diet. I mean, again, too many questions, but when I
wrote a book about this, by the way. It's called The Ultra Mind Solution: How to Fix Your Broken Brain by Fixing Your Body First. And a lot of the mood disorders, the depression, the suicidality, the violence we see, often the sort of polarization of our society, I believe in part is related to our diet. There was a study I quote in my book, Food Fix, which is about our food system and how to fix it, where they looked at juvenile detention centers, and they found that there was a 97% reduction in violence in the juvenile detention centers when they gave them healthy food. There was a 75% reduction in restraints and a 100% reduction in suicides, which is the third leading cause of death in these teenage boy populations, just by giving them healthy food.
And by healthy food, it sounds like you mean big picture reducing the amount of sugar.
Yeah, I mean, eating real food, stuff that your great-grandmother knew was food, right? If your great-grandmother, wouldn't know what a Pop-Tart is, right?
Right.
But she knows what a carrot is, or a chicken, or an egg, or rice, or whatever. Like, it's food that you would recognize where it came from. From the field to the fork, there weren't a million steps that deconstructed the ingredients, reassembled them into what we call ultra-processed food, which is unrecognizable from its original form. And for every 10% of your calories is ultra-processed food, your risk of death goes up by 14%. And our diet is 60% ultra-processed food, and kids is 67%. It's a national emergency, honestly. I mean, there's 6 million people that die from COVID globally, but 11 million people die every year from bad food.
And those who don't die have reduced joy in their lives and more confusion in that.
Right. There's something called quality of life years that doctors use to analyze the effect of things. 255 million years lost in terms of quality of life.
But I mean, the numbers that you just gave point to the deeper problem, which is it's not easy to quit eating this stuff.
No, it's not.
Like, you talk to people who quit alcohol. I quit alcohol and cigarettes.
You can't quit food.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's one thing to stop drinking or stop smoking. Again, done it. But wheat thins, Oreos, that's way harder.
Oh, totally.
Why?
They're biologically addictive. I know you've had Michael Moss on the show.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book called The 10-Day Detox Diet about the biology of how this affects us. And even if we don't know what we're eating, in other words, there was a study that looked at overweight guys. They gave them 2 different kind of milkshakes on separate days. One milkshake, and they were identical. Same protein, fat, carbs, fiber, everything was the same, except the kind of carbohydrate in one of the drinks was a rapidly absorbed carbohydrate, like sugar.
Yes.
And the other one was very slow, didn't cause a spike in sugar. They found that the group who had the high spiking sugar milkshake, they obviously had more adrenaline in their body, more cortisol, the stress hormone. They had more blood sugar elevations, insulin, cholesterol, all that went up. But was really, and they were hungrier, but was more important, they did brain imaging. And they found that the addiction center, the same center that's lit up by cocaine or heroin or cigarettes or whatever, is lit up by sugar.
So what's, and that's very obvious, I think.
Well, yeah, nobody's going to binge on a bag of avocados, but you can go through a bag of Oreos like...
Well, that's totally right. In fact, you can't.
No, you can't.
It's self-limiting.
Right.
You try to binge on avocados and your body says, you know what, I've kind of had enough avocados and we're fine now.
That's right, because there's no nutrition in the other food. So our body is designed to look for nutrition, to hunt for things. Animals do this. They eat and forage on many different plants if they're left in the wild because they know they need to get this vitamin from this one and this thing from that one. I mean, they're not obviously thinking, I need to get my vitamins.
They're driven by instinct.
Yeah, and so we should be the same way, but we've removed ourselves from our food in such a way that we've decoupled our normal biological constraints on overeating, and we actually now are eating way too much food. One study looked at ultra-processed food consumption versus regular real food. And when people were allowed to eat whatever they wanted in a controlled environment, the people who were given ultra-processed food ate 500 calories more a day.
Oh, yeah.
And you add that up over a year, that's 52 pounds of weight gain with those excess calories, just from eating ultra-processed food. So you have to think of it as a drug. I think of sugar as a recreational drug. Do I eat sugar? Absolutely. But do I take it as a regular part of my diet? No. And I think if you understand that it's a dangerous substance and there's no real safe level, then you can actually start to organize your life so you can change the way you're eating, create your health, and then you're not going to crave it. You're not going to want it. You're not going to be hungry for it all the time.
What's the key to making the break with your current diet?
It's a great question. I think it's motivation. People need to understand that they have a problem that's not their fault. And I think a lot of the narrative out there from the food industry, the government, professional associations, Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, American Heart Association, Diabetes Association, is that basically all you have to do to lose weight is eat less and exercise more. And the implicit message in that is that it's your fault you're fat. If you don't eat less and exercise more, it means you're a lazy glutton. And the science just does not support that fact. As per that recent study that I just mentioned, where if you eat the wrong foods, you eat more. So our biology is being hijacked, our hormones have been hijacked, our brain chemistry has been hijacked by the food industry in such a way to drive our behavior. Now, was that intentional? Probably not, but it was a side effect of the drive after World War II to create an abundance of calories and food for a hungry, starving world. And the way they did that was industrialization of agriculture, was large monocrops of corn and soy and wheat, and that led to this cheap, abundant source of raw materials for the food industry to make all kinds of stuff. So and as soon as we kind of entered into that processed food cycle, we've seen obesity spike. Now, when I was born, obesity was 3.4%. Now it's 42%. That's 12-fold increase in my lifetime. When I went to medical school, there was not a single state that had an obesity rate over 20%. Now there isn't a state that has an obesity rate under 20%, and most have 40%. So that's not genetic. And what's happening now in the dialogue around obesity is that, it's genetic. We need these drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy.
We are affiliated with a 501c3 called We Are the 51%. This is based off of all the good people in the world giving extra effort to have a better way of life. You can donate, sponsor, or even make a tax-deductible payment to help these children to get food so no child goes to sleep hungry. How you can help is to go to our website, matt55.com. You go to the bottom right-hand corner of the video, then click the button that says Retail Customers. You can choose either option, the $5 or the $40 donation options. Either click the add button below the dollar amount of which one that you choose. Then the next page, choose the quantity of the donation amount. For example, if you'd like to donate $1,000, then you can change the quantity amount to $200. Then click the checkout button in the bottom right-hand corner, and then on the next page, enter your credit card information, name and address. We will send you out a receipt for the amount so you can write this off as a donation on your taxes or also on your business taxes. Remember, our main goal is $1 million to help sponsor 20,000 children. 1 billion people in the world will lose their life due to starvation due to the famine that has already begun by 2025.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter.